We're mainly going to be looking at what is new in 10.02. All of the previous webinars are available at gossinteractive.com/community/webinars. Down there's all of the complete sort of new release webinars for version 10, if any of you are still online. Everything that was new in 10.01. And also worth saying that next week we've got a dedicated forms webinar. Be run in sort of the same format to this. I think it is on Monday. And that's going to be with one of the developers, so a lot more sort of technical look at the new forms features in 10.02. So if we sort of dive right into 10.02, first thing you notice there's a nice new login screen. All looks rather fancy. Oh, it's worth saying as well, obviously all of the fixes that were released for 10.01 are obviously all included in the 10.02 patch. Once you've logged into iCM, all looks sort of fairly familiar. The two sort of broad areas we're going to look at today, I've sort of divided it into making iCM faster and then a section on making iCM more secure. So when it comes to actually sort of the usability of iCM, one of the nice new changes in version 10 is some changes to the bulk editor. Before, obviously, you'd have to sort of open up your articles and think, oh, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one, oh, where's that other one I wanted? Oh, it's down here, I want that one, I want that one. Then you could right-click and use the bulk editor. Now you can actually load articles straight into the bulk editor from the search. So any old search, get the articles you want, and you see you've got these new options all on the left-hand side. Obviously fairly self-explanatory. You can copy them, edit them, move them, delete them. So if we edit the articles, it's just as if you'd done that control click and selected them all. You can bring them straight into the bulk editor and just edit them like normal, so we can go, I don't know, turn them all off. So again, this is sort of just that usual thing in iCM to try and make it so you can do everything from anywhere. And having it sort of loaded from the search just sort of speeds things up. One thing, again, if any of you are on version 9, you won't have realized that this was missing, but the welcome return of the creating inlines, creating media content, sorry, from inlines. So I'm sure you're aware in version 9 you could always do this, but now, back in version 10, if I want to create an image, rather than just having to pick one from here, I can now just right-click, create a media item, create an image, and I'm straight into the new image editor. Yeah, so now we've got the image editor and all the media creation straight from the inline dialog. And obviously that always existed. You could do it from the related content section, from the media library. Just speeds it up so now you can create media on the fly as you're editing articles. It's probably worth saying as well, actually, that is one of the things that was sort of brought back by popular demand. A lot of the changes we do make in iCM is sort of driven by your feedback. If you don't have an account, definitely, if you just go to feedback.gossinteractive.com, and you can actually sign up from here. Just pop in your email address. It will recognize that you don't have an account and take you through the sign-up procedure. Once you've signed up, we just add you into the iCM forum, and there's loads of discussions on there on new features and things. So if you've got an idea for iCM, definitely get it in there, because we do sort of build them into the new releases. Like I said, we're actually going to have a dedicated forms webinar next week, but there are two sort of sections on forms I'll touch on. In the new forms editor, there's a whole series of new field types and things, but from an admin point of view, there's a couple of nice little new features. Since version 10 came in, you've always had the ability to create groups of forms rather than just a big long list. What you can now do is export them and import them. So you might say you were building a whole load of forms on a test site or a test server. You can just export the group. It will save the whole lot as an XML file, and then when you come into your new iCM, wherever you need to import them, you can then just import. There, I've got an entire group of forms I can just import. It's one nice way of sort of moving content between different iCM installations. You'll probably find that soon on our, I think we've already got some example forms on our website. We're going to be expanding our help text site as well. You're probably all familiar with it. It's content.gossinteractive.com. That's going to have, we've already got some sort of reference sections and form examples, and we'll be updating that with all the newest things for 10.02 as well. When it comes to forms as well, it is always worth looking. The main sort of forms family we're now developing in is the default version 2 form family, which is, it's been around since I think 9.103, but it's even here, it's surprising we've got so many forms still using the default family. It's always been possible to convert forms from one family to the other. Some of you might be familiar with this PDF. You used to have to export the form, go through, find the name of the family, change the name of the form name and everything. We've simplified that as sort of default V2 is now the standard form family. Any form that you go into, you can now just, from that drop down, just change the form family. It'll give you a little warning to say, oh, you're changing the family. And iCM will just do it all for you, rather than you having to export the field type and edit the XML. That's sort of as much as I'm going to touch on with the forms, really, because like I said, there's a dedicated webinar next week. Like I said at the start, there's a couple of security changes now in iCM. One of them actually related to forms. Did I tell a lie? I'm going to go back to forms. If I just find my user in iCM, so in the past, you'll be familiar with assigning sort of content routes and access to the site on the content tab for your iCM groups and users. Before, with forms, you always had to either do an access to all or go through and just pick individual forms to assign to people. You can now just assign groups of forms. So if you had a dedicated department that was looking at graffiti and you didn't want to see anything else, you could just assign them just the graffiti forms. They'll then have all access to all the forms created under that group. Really just kind of bringing the permissions and content of other aspects of iCM just in line with articles. It's always been possible for articles to sort of manage the content that way. So having the same setup for forms just sort of makes it a bit simpler. Another quite a big change in version 10.02 is the way that iCM interacts with Google to bring content down from your Google Analytics into the Webmetrics tab. I'm sure you all received the support newsletter on Friday, and we did mention it in there, but it's worth sort of going through again. Before, when you allowed iCM to access your Google Analytics data, you would go in, edit your sub-site definition, and in this bottom section you used to have to type in your Google Analytics username and password, or you could set it up in auto-config. We're now using the Google's own authorization. You would go off to Google. They provide you with sort of an API key, which you can then pop into there, and it will then authorize. If we jump back to our help text site a second, we have got full documentation on there on how you do it. It's fairly straightforward. In this download there, it's just a case of logging into Google, getting those two keys, and popping them into the sub-site definition. Another security change, which is quite nice. Some of you might be familiar with logging into the API server. On 10.01, your API server console used to look a little bit like that. Not the nicest interface. We've now sort of redesigned the API server console. Assigning access to the API server is now just a privilege in iCM. And there you go, so you have a dedicated access to API server console. So you just use your normal iCM sort of user to log in. You can get into the API server console, and rather than this rather dry list of things, you now get a much nicer interface. You can see what's going on. That's probably all I'll touch on that, because your actual functionality once you're in there is sort of similar to how it always was. Unfortunately, I can't give you a live demo of that because I would need to be on a server rather than just on this desktop machine. But like I said, there's the previous webinars for 10 and 10.01. You can sign up for the new forms webinar, and obviously the help text site will cover things in a bit more detail as well. Obviously, anybody looking to upgrade to 10, 10.01, 10.02, if you host yourselves, all of the files are available on our site for download. If you log in, there we go, file request. If you find your user doesn't have access to this as well, just drop me a support ticket and I'll give you access. But once you log in, once you're in there, you've got all of the upgrade files, installation files, the patch files, all the hotfix, business process mapping tools. There's links to all these sort of relevant sort of .NET iCM renders and things. We have quite a few clients who do sort of do their own upgrades, but obviously, if you'd like us, if you host with us, your upgrade and patches are all included in the hosting contract, and we've already had a few requests through. And obviously, it's probably worth saying as well, in the patches area, there is a document that includes all of the new features as well. So obviously you've got all the installation instructions, and you can also grab all the new features documentation as well, which is absolutely full of screenshots and all the information.